Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're taking a seriously epic trip. We're going to trace the massive, wild, and totally non-linear family tree of human evolution. And we're going all the way from the actual origins of the universe, right down to modern-day you.
So let's just dive right into the ultimate question, right? Where did the very first human actually come from? And, for that matter, are we done? Is our evolution finally over? Well, by stepping through the evidence, we can piece together the incredibly surprising story of exactly how we got here.
All right, let's jump right into this explainer and try something completely mind-boggling. We're going to try fitting 14 billion years of existence into a single, seamless story. Welcome to our deep dive into the ultimate origin story. Today, we're not just looking at, a few centuries of human empires. We are looking at the entire tapestry of the cosmos and figuring out exactly how you and I fit into the whole shebang. So, to really comprehend our place in the universe, we've got to start with a pretty practical question. How on earth can we possibly wrap our minds around a timeline that's just so impossibly vast? I mean, our brains are wired to understand days, years, maybe a few millennia if we study hard enough, but billions of years? That kind of scale completely defies our everyday intuition.
To keep us from getting lost in literally billions of years of history, here's our game plan. We'll look at our closest living relatives, how we started walking on two legs, the very first humans, our dynamic with Neanderthals, whether we're still evolving right now, and finally, the ultimate common ancestor.
Okay, part one. Let's start by looking at our closest living relatives, the great apes.
Now, looking at the hominids, it is just wild to think that we share an astounding 99% of our DNA with chimpanzees, 98% with gorillas, 97% with orangutans. And, we don't just share DNA. We share the ability to walk on two legs, and get this, we even have the exact same A, B, and O blood types. Honestly, even if we zoom way out to gibbons, we are still looking at a 96% genetic match. So, millions of years ago, early primates became arboreal, which just means tree dwellers. And why? Simply because they were highly motivated to climb up and reach the fruit. That one simple dietary goal gave us prehensile hands, grasping feet, and those flexible, rotating shoulder joints. Basically, the absolute perfect toolkit for swinging through the canopy.
Moving on to part two, let's travel down the branches and see what happened when our ancestors actually dropped out of those trees and lost their tails.
You see, the crucial turning point toward walking upright, which we call bipedalism, was largely triggered around 25 million years ago by this totally fascinating genetic shift. There was a mutation in something called the TBXT gene that literally caused hominoids to lose their tails. And I mean, think about it. Tails are great for hanging out in trees, right? But they're a huge nuisance when you're just trying to walk on the ground. Losing them made walking upright so much more practical.
Watching this build over millions of years is just incredible. About 4.4 million years ago, Ardipithecus ramidus only walked upright sometimes. But fast forward to 3.7 million years ago, and Australopithecus afarensis, this includes the famous fossil Lucy, by the way, were fully committed bipeds. They had knees built just like ours. And because their hands were finally free and not being used for walking, by 3.3 million years ago, they were using naturally sharp stones to scavenge for meat. Real game changer.
Which brings us to part three. Zooming into the specific Homo category, we finally encounter the true ghosts of our past, the ones who underwent some really radical physical changes.
Look at how every single step in the Homo category fueled massive progression. First, Homo habilis used tools to crack open bones for marrow. Then, Homo erectus unlocked a literal superpower, controlled fire. Cooking meat provided this massive, easily digestible surplus of energy. And that specific excess energy, that's exactly what fueled the evolution of our huge brains, ultimately leading to Homo sapiens, creating abstract art and complex language.
And the biological payoff of that prehistoric barbecue was just astounding. To put it in perspective, Homo erectus operated with a brain size of around 900 cubic centimeters. But thanks to all that energy from cooked food, modern Homo sapiens experienced an absolute explosion in brain size, jumping up to roughly 1,350 cubic centimeters. That cognitive upgrade is the exact reason we were able to develop complex tools and, well, dominate the globe.
Now, evolution is certainly not a straight line.
So for part 4, let's talk about our famous cold-adapted cousins, the Neanderthals.
This right here is a truly crucial evolutionary crossroads. Homo sapiens thrived on a super varied diet and built these expansive trade networks. And because our eyes were actually smaller, less brain power had to go to visual processing. That left a lot more room for complex social networking. Neanderthals, on the other hand, relied really heavily on meat, lived in isolated little groups, and evolved these larger eyes to deal with the dark European winters, which ate up vital brain space. So when extreme cold struck about 40,000 years ago, their lack of dietary flexibility and social safety nets tragically led to their extinction.
But their story doesn't entirely end there. Because Homo sapiens and Neanderthals overlapped for millennia in Europe and Asia, they actually interbred. If you've ever taken a modern DNA test, you might have seen this yourself. A 2% ghost of Neanderthal DNA still survives in a ton of us today. They might be extinct, but a tiny literal fragment of them is alive inside you right now. No way, right?
So part 5 brings up a truly fascinating query. Are our bodies finally done changing, or is human evolution still an ongoing process?
Well, as it turns out, evolution isn't just history. It is happening right this second. Our bodies are constantly adapting to local environments. We see smooth skin color gradients based on UV exposure near the equator. We see lactose tolerance popping up in regions with ancient dairy farming traditions. We see specialized fat padding, epicanthic folds, in Asian populations to protect eyes from freezing winds and snow glare. We're even watching average female heights in South Korea shoot up by about 8 inches over the last century, all thanks to better nutrition. Evolution is this relentless, continuous engine.
For our final act, part 6, let's pull the camera way, way back, past the mammals, past the tetrapods, down into the absolute depths of our biological history. Believe it or not, we actually share 73% of our DNA with the zebrafish. Because we share vertebrate ancestry, our core genetic blueprints are still incredibly similar. And it goes even deeper than that. Scientists have actually taken single-celled yeast, swapped out its vital survival genes with human equivalents, and you know what? The yeast lived. It perfectly proves how much of our basic foundational cellular machinery is universally shared across almost all life forms. Trace those connections back far enough, and absolutely everything converges on LUCA and FUCA. LUCA, the last universal common ancestor, shares 355 specific universal genes with modern bacteria. And pushing to the absolute beginning, we find FUCA, the first universal common ancestor. This formed when free-floating nucleotides just naturally assembled into RNA. Every single living organism on Earth originated from that single, watery beginning billions of years ago. Now, if you ever struggle to grasp how a simple bacterium becomes a complex human over billions of years, just think about human pregnancy. Seriously, it starts with one single microscopic cell. Through completely natural division, it becomes a blastocyst, then a fetus with a beating heart, and finally, a fully formed baby in just 9 months. It perfectly demonstrates the whole concept. Massively complex organisms absolutely can, and do, build themselves entirely from one single microscopic cell.
Big history framework. This brings us to a real game changer of an academic framework, pioneered by historian David Christian back in 1989. You see, Christian was originally a historian of Russia, but he realized something crucial. To truly understand the human story, you couldn't just start with the invention of farming or the first written alphabet. You had to zoom way, way out. The difference between these two approaches is stark. Traditional history, it's entirely human-centric. It relies on written documents and mostly kicks off with the agricultural revolution, right around 10,000 years ago. But Blig history, it's this massive, multidisciplinary approach. It literally starts 13.8 billion years ago with the Big Bang, and it weaves together cosmology, geology, and biology well before humans even enter the picture. In fact, David Christian predicts a major paradigm shift in how we learn. He foresees a return to what he calls universal history. So instead of studying isolated, narrow timelines, like just European history or, say, just the Ming Dynasty, we're moving toward empirical research and universal scaling that actually connects everything together. The cosmic calendar. To really visualize this universal history, let's look at a powerful cognitive tool that radically scales down the universe so our human brains can actually process it. Now, what's so fascinating here is how this calendar takes those incomprehensible 13.8 billion years and compresses them into a standard 365-day year. Picture this. On this cosmic calendar, the Big Bang happens at the very first second of January 1st. And right now, literally this exact moment as you're watching this explainer, is the final stroke of midnight on December 31st. Every single thing that has ever happened took place within this one cosmic year. And this brilliantly illustrates our exact place in time. I mean, just look at the dates for December alone. Our solar system doesn't even form until late summer. But the month of December is truly staggering. The first dinosaurs, they only show up on December 26th. That is just 6 days ago on this scale. Mammals arrive the very next day. The dinosaurs get wiped out by an asteroid on December 30th. And us, Homo sapiens, we only step onto the stage a mere 8 minutes before midnight on New Year's Eve. Oh, and the invention of the telescope, the very tool that allowed us to look back at all of this, that happened just one single cosmic second ago. Wild, right? All right, Section 3, the Homonin family tree. Let's physically zoom into those final 8 minutes of the cosmic calendar to unpack the surprisingly complex origins of our own species. Because as it turns out, even in those last 8 minutes, the story is anything but simple. We've all seen that classic, iconic image of human evolution, right? The neat, single-file line starting from a crouching ape, slowly standing up straighter and straighter until it becomes a modern human holding a spear or a briefcase. But does the actual fossil and genetic record support that linear march of progress? Well, the short answer is no. Actually, the reality is much more chaotic and, frankly, a lot more fascinating. We've got early hominin groups like Australopithecus, who were bipedal but still skilled climbers, living between 4 and 1.8 million years ago. But wait, Homo habilis, the handyman, known for early stone tools, emerges around 2.8 million years ago. And then Homo erectus, who figured out how to control fire, appears around 1.8 million years ago. These aren't just species politely passing the baton one after the other. No, these are diverse groups overlapping, adapting, and coexisting across millions of years. Which leads us to Section 4, a web of human species. Instead of a linear progression, human evolution is much better described as a tangled, branching web. The truth is, we were never alone on this planet. As our direct ancestors, Homo sapiens, emerged in Africa roughly 300,000 years ago and started to expand across the globe, we actually entered territories that were already occupied by other advanced human species. We encountered distinct evolutionary cousins, like the Neanderthals. And Neanderthals were incredibly successful. They were physically adapted to the freezing conditions of glacial Europe, and they even had larger visual brain centers to help them see in the dimmer light of those northern latitudes. For decades, scientists wondered what exactly happened when modern humans met these archaic cousins. Did we just wipe them out? Well, the recent genetic revolution revealed the ultimate plot twist. We didn't just overlap with Neanderthals and another group called the Denisovans, we actually interbred with them. Around 45,000 to 80,000 years ago, as Homo sapiens moved through the Near East and Europe, these distinct human branches crossed paths and swapped genes. And astonishingly, because of that ancient mingling, between 1 to 4% of the DNA in all modern non-African populations today comes directly from Neanderthals. Plus, some populations, like modern Melanesians, carry significant DNA from Denisovans too. So the absolutely crucial takeaway here is that those archaic humans didn't completely go extinct. A piece of them lives on right now, quite literally, inside the cells of billions of people watching this very explainer. Moving to our final section, Section 5. We are literally Stardust. Let's zoom all the way back out, past our ancient DNA, past the hominin family tree, and return to our connection with the cosmos itself. Let's see how this all builds to one of the most poetic facts in all of science. Based on the massive SDSS-3 APOG survey, which mapped out 150,000 stars, we now have empirical proof of that old cliché. Humans and the Milky Way galaxy share 97% of the exact same kind of atoms. The carbon in your cells, the oxygen you breathe, the iron in your blood, it was all forged in the bellies of dying stars billions of years ago. As Ohio State astronomy professor Jennifer Johnson points out, mapping these elements helps us pinpoint the exact cosmic conditions required for biological life to spark. Basically, the universe had to age. Stars had to be born, burn through their fuel, and explode in supernovas over vast stretches of time just to seed the galaxy with the heavy elements necessary to build a planet, let alone a human body. So we exist inside a highly specific, temporal galactic habitable zone.
Ultimately, our complex, chaotic family tree is tied directly to the very origins of the solar system itself. Before life even began in the water, Earth was formed from the nebula of an ancient, exploding supernova.
So literally speaking, all humans, animals, plants, the ground, the sky, everything is made of stardust. We are the conscious evolution of ancient cosmic explosions. Which leaves us with one final, incredible question to ponder. What will the stardust inside of us evolve into next?
So what should you take away from this entire explainer? Well, from the Big Bang on January 1st of the cosmic calendar, through the tangled web of our hominin ancestors, right down to the iron pumping through your veins right now, it's all one continuous, seamless story. If we are fundamentally built from the exhaust of ancient stars, it begs an incredible question. Are we not just the universe, after 14 billion years, finally waking up, opening its eyes and observing itself? Definitely something to think about the next time you look up at the night sky. Thanks for joining us for this explainer. Keep learning and keep looking up.